afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the City Commission meeting this April 27th, 2022. We appreciate all of you folks being here today. The purpose of today's meeting is a continuation and the second reading of the ordinance establishing geographical boundaries of the 4 City Commission districts. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Moritas, Commissioner Glassman,
Here.
Commissioner McKenzie, Vice Mayor Sorensen,
Here.
Mayor Trentalis.
Here. So we have 100% participation. Now, 3 people have signed up to speak, and but before we do that, is there any, from our folks from FAU, is there any change? Are there any changes from the last presentation that you want to speak to us about as we have the second reading today? Or is this, are we voting on the same geographical boundaries that we voted on the first time?
Correct. You indicated that you would
Please
like
identify yourself.
Excuse me. James Gamma Clark, Florida Atlantic University's Geosciences Department.
Perfect. Okay.
So you'd indicated at the last meeting that you wanted a small tweak to Alternative 6. And so we created an Alternative 6B on the fly, which was voted on at the first reading. So there's been no changes to 6B. 6B stands the same.
Okay. So there have been no changes since we voted on the ordinance the first reading, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, does anybody have any questions of Mr. Gamut Clark before we open it up to public hearing? Okay, there being none. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mayor. Thanks. So some of the questions that have come up recently are, how did we get to option 6 or this piece around Riverland Village? So if you want to give us a little background, just kind of process-wise. We initially came up with several map options, and then just walk us through that, if you don't mind.
Certainly. In fact,
You want to wait. Do you want to be specific as to your district or the entire city? I mean, because this could take a long time because it went from one type of boundary drawing to, completely different things. So is there a specific area that you are asking about, or
No, I think
every single district to be
just
discussed?
holistically, kind of what was the process, and then specifically he can get to Riverland Village as
Okay,
part
I
of
thought that's where you were going.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
so, of course, the necessary changes that we needed to see to your existing districts, which are out of balance at the moment as they presently stand, they needed to expand District 1 and to contract District 4. That was the general pattern that we needed to see. And so, there's only a few options to contract District 4. You can either do it in the east or the west or in the north. In the various alternatives that we presented, we tried different options. In this particular alternative, Alternative 6B, it represents a minimalist option. It was one of the options where we changed the existing districts to the smallest degree that we possibly could. And so in this particular alternative, that change occurs in the western part of the district to one of the 2 districts that are, of course, contiguous to District 4, which of course is District 3 or District 2. In this case, it expands District 3 at the expense of District 4.
Great. And so we had looked at District 4 has to lose some population, right?
Correct.
And so the options for that, we looked the east side, right? We just walk us through east, north, and west, and what you think makes the most sense.
So, well, they all make sense.
Go.
In the north, for example, we looked at making the boundary between District 2 and 4 the river. Of course, that moved the Collie Hammock into District 2. And then, of course, in the east, you've got the area that's east of the Intracoastal. That was also considered as an option to be moved into District 2 in various of the alternatives. But under this particular minimalist option, the way it works is to move the Riverland Village from District 4 into District 3.
Wow. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Any further questions?
And why did
For right
why
now.
did they do that again?
Because District 4 has to shrink in terms of population.
It has to shrink. That's why you did it.
Correct.
No other reason.
No other reason.
Not to keep anyone contiguous, not to divide anyone, but just because their population was so heavy that you had to go to the southwestern side of the city to extract a population, put them somewhere where they had no desire to be in the first place.
Well, of course, in the redistricting processes, regardless of, the governmental agency that you're talking about, regardless of the city that you're talking about, there will always be situations, of course, where boundaries moved and some people will be upset because their district boundaries are moving. Unfortunately, that's inevitable in this process if we were to achieve population balance.
Right.
And so in this case, we have to choose between District 2 or District 3 as to which is going to expand at the expense of 4. And so again, we've looked at all the various parameters or permutations that you'd go through, and this is the least destructive or least invasive approach that we could go through to create our minimalist option that was requested of us. And of
So,
course, it's standard practice in the redistricting.
so the other maps didn't have any disruptions? And you gave us 9 maps, so
Yes.
how did this map become the map with the least disruptiveness and the minimalist, as the term you use, map? Because when we had the last meeting and I asked the questions, it was we would do or serve at the will of the commission as to what you want. So you had to go back and figure out a way to appease our wants and needs. I never added anything to the pot. Others up here did, and i.e. Coley Hammett went somewhere, i.e. the contiguous no division in a district took place, and I was clearly on an island by myself, which I was fine with the maps. And I asked the question about this particular group, why are they being, I don't want to say pushed, because Commissioner Glassman eloquently phrased it saying, they will love you, Commissioner McKenzie. They will love you. And I guarantee you, if I'm your commissioner, you will love me. But I'm leaving here in November. And I don't think anyone that comes behind me is going to do any disservice to any community in the city, because we don't want to see lines. We don't want to see color. But in this instance, to me, we saw what is often used, and we didn't want to use those words, gerrymandering, asking to put things where we wanted them, us. When we started this process, it was a mathematical equation. That's why we implored the college to do so. But when we didn't see what we wanted to see as a commission, we started pushing, we started towing. And I appreciate the letter that you wrote to me. I read it in its entirety. But I don't respond to emails. However, today I wanted to speak to you because the question was asked to explain this process. And when we had an opportunity to explain it, and I spoke the very same words you spoke in that letter, now today, one of us wants to ask, how did we get here? We got here because we did this. We chose this map. This was the vote. I wasn't the commissioner that asked for you. I would love to have you if that's the way that the ball bounces. But you should be asking your commissioner then, and if we vote on this map tonight, why did this drastic change take place on the minimalist map? I asked for a minimal request in retaining the old historical black downtown, which is a measly little 2 blocks. Moved 2 blocks and 3 blocks. It was denied because it would divide a neighborhood. But City View didn't want to be with black folk. Regal Trace chose the best route for them. That was Milton Jones and his selfishness, if he indeed wrote that text, which I didn't see to date yet. But if he decided he wants to be in District 2, that's perfectly okay with me. I can live with the outcomes. I didn't push any of the maps. I asked for one thing, minimum, since you use minimus, Minimal. And I got you guys, 2,000 and something people. So I wanted to speak to you today because I don't want you leaving here today with an ill feeling about me. I never said I wanted you, but if it comes out or boils down to, I would love to have you. I like all God's creations. And that's why I say that. But how you got there, your district commissioner and others up here made decisions. I don't think Commissioner Moritas chose that. She voted no with me. And I'm not trying to throw anybody, Mayor, out there on a limb, but we got here because we decided that was the least or the minimus and the most least disruptive map that we chose. So I wanted to speak to you on record today as to how you got there from my perspective. And tonight, it's a second reading. In most cases, since I've been here 8.5 years, I've never seen a second reading overturned but one time, once. But speak to us. Let us know how you feel. All of you that are dissatisfied about how we changed the original outcomes of the original 4 maps. Supposed to be getting the 5th map. It came back with more maps. Then we got more maps, a total of 9 maps that we could have easily chosen any one of those maps. But when I walked in the room, I knew that the map that 2 of us wanted wouldn't survive the smell test or the consensus of a vote.
Okay.
But, Commissioner McKenzie, just for clarification,
I was speaking to the people, not
Great.
to you.
Great.
The people.
You
They
referenced
wrote me a letter.
Wonderful. Can I finish?
Questions at them.
Thank you. I'm gonna direct my comment to you because you referenced me. No individual commissioner drew this map. Commissioner McKenzie, it was drawn by FAU. Thank you.
3-2 vote to gerrymander and push you guys where you didn't want to be.
Just not correct.
All right, so let him finish speaking. Commissioner McKenzie. All right.
He doesn't need to direct his questions. He can direct them to the chair or to the audience, not to me.
Thank you. I'm finished, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I also want to, well, I'll address this to the audience like Commissioner McKenzie has requested, but I would say that the key to what Commissioner McKenzie said was from his perspective. So I would respectfully disagree with his perspective on this process, and I would just urge people to watch all of the commission meetings that have led us to this point, because there have been how many, Chris? How many meetings have we had on the maps?
We're up to 4 or 5 or 6. I mean, multiple. I don't have the exact number. Multiple.
This is maybe our 5th or 6th meeting about the maps. So there's a long history.
At least.
Lots of video, lots of agendas that were published in a very timely manner, lots of opportunities for every commissioner and the mayor, including Commissioner McKenzie, to weigh in all through the process. So I would just say that I respectfully disagree with his perspective on how we got here today. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Moritas, you have anything you want to say? You don't have to.
Sure. Is this our only
I don't
chance to
I
talk
want you to
about
feel
the map?
left out.
Yes.
I
Thank
can't
you. Thank you. I believe, some districts had to grow and some had to shrink. So I think that's how we really got here. But the reason why I did vote along with Commissioner McKenzie last time on the option for 6B was because I do feel if there's one particular area and it's 34 people that is historically black, I think that should be given some weight as to where it should go. And so I did defer to Commissioner McKenzie, and I said, I think the little area on 6B, I supported him saying that should go to the historically black district. So I think, I know some neighborhoods had to come and some had to go. I had to gain a neighborhood. We tried to keep the neighborhoods together. I think that was super important to all of us. But I did, like Commissioner McKenzie pointed out, agree with him that I want to keep the historically black area together if possible. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Gammon Clark, let me ask you a question.
Of course.
The section at the bottom of the map in which that highlighted area is being transferred from District 4 to District 3, does that in any way sever or divide any particular neighborhood or civic
No.
association that we know of?
It does not.
It does not. Okay. Okay. That's all I wanted to know. All right. We have a few people signed up to speak. Thank you, Mr. Gammon Clark. Please don't go away in case we need you. J.J. Hankerson. J.J., are you here? Oh, there you are. followed by Alexander, is it Cabrezi? Okay, I can't read, sorry, Cabrera. Hi, JJ.
Hello, how you doing? Good evening, Commissioner.
Could you please speak into the microphone?
You hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just here to say that I support map 6, the option 6, and I think it'll keep us together as a community, in our boundary area, and I support it.
Are you here speaking for yourself or on behalf of
No, I'm speaking on behalf of
the Civic Association?
Yes.
Progresso?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you, JJ. Did you want to ask him a question?
JJ, you mean 6B, right? The one that we passed on the first reading, not just 6, because there was a 6 and then a 6. That's 6B. Yes, thank you. And you're speaking on behalf of Progresso Village Civic Association? Thank you.
Alexander Cabrera, followed by Pamela Beasley Pittman, and followed by Michelle Hempel. Hello, Mr. Cabrera.
Mayor Trentalis, commissioners, audience. My name is Alexander Cabrera. I live at 3210 Southwest 17th Street, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I've lived there for over 20 years. And I am the current president of the Riverland Village Civic Association. A lot of work has gone into these maps, but I can tell you none of the work has been done with any input from the neighborhood that's being affected very strongly, which is Riverland Village, our neighborhood. It's affecting not just the neighborhood, it's affecting families and voters. You've gone through this, and I really don't believe that the gentleman from FAU or the people who have done the research have fully looked at the impacts that this change does to the neighborhood, to the schools, to the families. I personally was in the room when our neighborhood was annexed into the city 20 some odd years ago. I was there. And
There too.
excellent. Then you remember Larry Hayes. You remember Larry Hayes, Jim Noggle, Sidney Hutchinson, all them. I was there. And we were promised, we were told, you will always be in the 4th. It's not a problem. Even as it grows, it's not a problem because your area will not grow that much. You'll be fine. The 4th is your home. You are welcome there. At no time were we even given a chance to bring input into these conversations, into the changes on these maps. All this is basically just being railroaded over us. You're dragging a neighborhood that doesn't want to go into the 3rd, screaming and fighting this. Changing districts will not only change a boundary, but it changes the dynamic that we've, in partnerships that we've developed with throughout the 4th. Neighborhoods in our own area, in Riverland area, all the way out towards the beach. We all know each other. We've all created these partnerships. Changing this district, changing our district will change all that. You're severing us from what we've known to be home for the past 20 years, what we were promised to be in. There are several other neighborhoods in the area that are staying in the 4th that I just don't understand because they have a higher population and they stretch out farther west, farther to the south, far reach out of scope that should be maybe pulled in. Maybe they should be considered for the 3rd, which is the Lauderdale Isles. I don't understand why they can't be pulled in, if that's the case. Please do not approve these maps. Please do not move forward with these maps until further study is done, until you've actually spoken to the people that are being affected, the families and the voters. Please keep us in mind and do not vote to remove us from District 4, which we've known for well over 20 years to be our home.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cabrera. Pamela Beasley Pittman, followed by Michelle Hempel. It's chilly in here.
Good afternoon to the commission, mayor, and our commissioners, and everyone that's here this afternoon. I am Dr. Pamela Beasley Pittman. longtime resident of the city of Fort Lauderdale, 33311. I am the president of Historic Dorsey Riverbend Civic Association. I just want to read a statement today. I understand and respect the process. I appreciate the process when the process is implemented honorably and respectfully, and when it is without objective that seemingly lace and systemically line up to attack, which will benefit others and their beneficiaries, not negating to work in the direction that would profit the city of Fort Lauderdale overall. The whole and the complete history, heritage, and legacy of this city must never be sacrificed or erased by district lines or orchestrated or outlined within the city's charter. I have been attending these public hearings. I've listened, I've heard the debates and the comments given reference to an agreement that was made over 20 years ago with then the Commissioner Carlton Moore. Several times it was stated that Commissioner Moore agreed to the changes that changed basically the demographics of District 3. Those conversations alluded that because of the late Commissioner Moore's agreement to move these district lines, he and our community had no objective to the changes. However, there was no discussion about those guarantees and promises that may have prompted Commissioner Moore to agree to such movement for our community. Was there a vision to unify the community? Was it that the city was reassuring that we be included in the development and of economic justice? Were these things discussed? However, 2 decades later, we're still witnessing the continuing of chipping away and our community being erased on paper and our heritage being removed because now it's being decided that it should be in a different district. All of this has been weighed on guarantees and promises. It was said to me in the last meeting that not to worry, whatever goes forward, I guarantee you will be a part of the conversation. But what happens when 20 years pass again and none of us in this room are at the table? What happened to the promises and what happened to the guarantees? Please take these things under consideration. As again, I said, this is a statement. I understand that more than likely this is not going to overturn today, but these are things that need to be remembered when we come to these type of conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Michelle Hempel here? Hi, Michelle.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Hempel. I reside in Riverland Village. We've lived there since 2000. We were there during the time that we came to the city of Fort Lauderdale. I remember that we were going to be in District 4, and I just think a lot of things are changing within our city and within our little community. I'm a mother of 2 boys who go to public school. Stephen Foster, which is in the Riverland Village, which will now be in another district if this is approved. And my other son also attends the New River Magnet program at the middle school. So basically, if we change these boundaries, I don't think anybody took the time how it affects our community. This will divide Stephen Foster Elementary Innovation Zone into 2. So now kids will now be coming from 2 of the city's districts. New River School boundary mirrors almost entirely Fort Lauderdale District 4, with the exception of Sunset Neighborhood and now the proposal to remove Riverland Village. And finally, if this proposed change goes through, my House of Representatives will be different than my city commission in every other neighborhood in my district. We have fought instrumentally and working together with the FAA and the ongoing noise issues. This does need to be reconsidered with all our municipalities and governmental agencies involved. This is definitely not a minimalist approach. It's affecting several hundred families in our community, the students, the kids, the teachers, my Boy Scouts, just everybody. We've been there for over 20 years, and we want to stay in District 4. Thank you.
Michelle, can I just ask you something? Michelle?
Yes.
This is one Fort Lauderdale, right? And, anything affecting school organizations or school boundaries are not impacted by the separation of one district or another. It doesn't impact representatives at the State House. It doesn't impact congressional districts. This is just an artificial boundary meant to allow a commissioner, whoever's chosen for that district, to be the one to whom you would seek information or help out in what goes on in your neighborhood, wanting a street sign, wanting to ensure that we have good drainage. It doesn't change the fact that you are in Fort Lauderdale and that you are entitled to all the same services, whether you live in 1, 2, 3, or 4.
But we'll have different voices.
I'm sorry?
We would have different voices,
You would
and
have
we like the voices in our district.
what do you mean you have different voices? How does that, what does
Just
that
the
mean?
support that we've had and everything that we've worked on to as a group in our neighborhood.
Well, I would say.
We don't like change. What can
Okay.
I say?
That's what it comes down to. I think that
we were promised
whoever
one thing and now
represents
it's
you-
another.
Whoever represents you in District 3 or District 4 will be a strong advocate for your neighborhood, no matter who represents you. And I would like to think that has the case whether it's in 1, 2, 3, or 4. And I know that everybody on this commission works as hard as they can to help those folks in their own district. So
I get it, but
I don't think it's a doomsday scenario as I'm hearing people from
the
your
problem is
suggest.
there's houses from the 1950s in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's not our fault that you're approving building plans that are increasing the amount of people that are going to be living in District 4. So we're just going to move out the people that have been here for 20 years so that we can have new high-rises in an area that's taken over my husband's business that he's owned since 1994 to get rid of an old brick-and-mortar bar so a big high-rise can go. Okay? It's not fair, and I'm done with it.
Okay. That sounds like another issue. Okay.
Mayor, I have a question because I've heard this a few times, so maybe Chris or Alan, you can help me understand about the concept of when this area came into the city, that promises were made that they would be in District 4. I know, how could that even be a promise from anyone when we know we redistrict every 10 years according to the census, and neighborhoods have moved in and out of districts the whole time in our history. So who would have made that promise?
Well, first of all, I was on the commission at the time, and with the promise that was made was that we would, you were now going to be part of Fort Lauderdale instead of unincorporated Broward, and that you were assigned District 4. It wasn't like a promise. It was like you are assigned to District 4 because that's the area closest to
At
to
that time.
the neighborhood at that time. I don't see it so much as a promise. I will say this. I've come to realize that people are very possessive of the district that they're in. And I'm happy to see that we take such pride in our neighborhood associations, in our neighborhoods, in our districts, and that there's a growing attachment that you have when you belong to a certain district. I mean, I'm being moved from one district to another. My neighborhood is, I should stand up over there and complain because I can't believe I'm moving into District 1.
Yeah.
But I know that whoever represents District 1 is going to hear my voice as once I become a private citizen as very much as any other district commissioner. So, I believe the integrity of this commission will never be weakened by the fact that the district lines are moved from one area to another. So.
And Mayor, I'm glad you brought that up because actually, when I attended your neighborhood's meeting last week, which coincidentally happened right after we passed that map on the first reading, obviously, when I was scheduled to speak to that association meeting, we didn't know the timing. So it ended up being also I'm so sorry, but this is happening. And, it's been an honor and a privilege to represent you, but now you will be well represented in District 1. You're right, there were a lot of people at that meeting who were very upset and actually upset with me, upset with the system. I had to explain, as I would tonight, and say again, we had two things to go on. We had which districts had to lose population, which districts had to gain population, and then geographically, how do you do that by maintaining the fact that everything has to be contiguous? It's not easy.
Well,
So what I had to explain to your neighborhood was the only way that District 1 could gain population is because it only borders District 2, so it has to come south in District 2. It couldn't do that on A1A because then I would be out of my district that I was elected in, and that's not a possibility. And the only other way was to come down Federal Highway into your neighborhood, Poinsettia Heights. And that's just, so this was really just a matter of geography and population. There was really no other way we could do that because you can't just pick a neighborhood that's far away, not contiguous. You can't just do it like a puzzle. It really is just very matter of fact. So I'm glad you brought that up. And I think that's what we're facing now. We're facing numbers and we're facing geography. That's it.
Well, I
Thanks.
think what makes it difficult is that we're doing this mid-year. It's not like there's an election coming up. Normally, when you have the redistricting, there's maybe an election in November or something, and someone who's going to represent you anyways. So when we vote on this today, I will represent a new neighborhood today. And so it's shocking. Same thing with you. When we vote on this today, you're losing your representative today. And I don't think we even knew that initially at least I didn't, when we were going through this process. Like, this would take effect today, not with the next election.
Whenever we redistrict, it's always in the middle of the term. It was done last time it was done in the middle of a term. So
Well, I think I'm thinking state maybe, 'cause they're every 2 years and they kind of do it and then it just kind of takes effect with the next 2 years. Or Congress, it's every 2 years and.
yeah, it's not how, for some reason, that's just not how we do things. But
So I'm going back to my recollection of 10 years ago when my husband went through it. He didn't represent new people the minute there was a vote.
no, but that's the legislature.
Yes, I understand, but I'm saying for us as a city, it's different than the state and Congress because they run every 2 years, so they're redistricting.
Well, we could change our charter if we want to do that.
Coincides, but we're losing people like today, so you're losing us, not the next person who comes in, and that's hard to swallow. Did you tell them how much they're going to like me, Steve? Did you try?
Well, I feel I'm losing a brother,
Yeah.
but I'm gaining a sister, so I'm okay with it.
Did you tell them my husband's grandparents had a house there, my aunts and uncles lived there? And, I actually was born, my parents lived in Riverland, so I think I've covered all districts in our city.
Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak? Those were the only ones that had signed up. Do you have anybody else? Nobody else? Okay. Do I hear a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Moritas?
What are we voting on?
This is to close.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Yes. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and public hearing is now closed. Does someone like to introduce the ordinance on second reading?
Before we do that, Mayor, I just want to make a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
Yeah,
Vice Mayor.
So I just want to make a comment on the comments about the airport and the work the neighborhood's done. So I'm really proud of the work we've done together with airport noise and so forth, and that work continues regardless of, I think Commission District, if this is approved, and I think we can do a great job together representing our neighborhoods. So that's it, Mayor. Thanks.
Okay. Someone like to introduce the ordinance on
I just
second
have a
reading?
question on what we're voting on exactly. So today we're voting on 6B. Correct?
again?
We're voting on 6B,
We're voting.
right? That's the only one. 'Cause I know-
6B, yes.
I know last time there were two options.
Right, we're
and-
voting on option 6B, which is attached to the agenda. Yeah.
Okay, and 6B, Commissioner McKenzie, did that take into consideration
Ask the consultant, because the
Uh,
map changes every time I look at it.
okay, because I knew there were two options last time, so I thought we were actually going to vote on
6B.
one option or the other.
6B.
Did we take into consideration on the map we're voting on today, 6B, did we add the area that Commissioner McKenzie was concerned about?
So Obviously, when we were here last week,
Right.
we had two meetings. One of which, the early one I was at, and then the second one, my associate Michael Stam was presenting in front of you. And at that time, he presented a number of options. We were asked to present one where, the 34 people that's in Progresso stayed in District 3. There was also a consideration where we move a couple of blocks that Commissioner McKenzie was interested in, move that into District 3. And so under all these permutations, ultimately 6B was the one you selected and voted on. And so that's what we're here.
So
This is just a second reading.
So the question is,
Second reading.
and I think we can understand it, if you use layman terms like Regal Trace, City View, and the Milton Jones Plaza, is that in 6B? That's what the people want to hear. Is that in 6B?
No, the 6B, those boundaries remain exactly as they are presently, with the small change of those 34 people along 7th being moved.
So the plaza is in that map?
If the plaza you're referring to is that small sliver that's on 7th, then yes, that's being moved into District 2.
The 36 people in the 3 western buildings in Regal Trace, they're being taken out?
34 people.
34 people.
34. Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate that.
No problem.
The rest of Regal Trace is being left out of the ask of coming to District 3. This is for them, not for me.
I think you're just keeping the status quo.
Remaining.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, the
City
boundary
View,
is, you can see on
not
this
in
map
that.
here that the boundary is only changing in those 3 areas. And the only change that's
So-
occurring between District 3 and 2 is that very small
Okay.
area that includes.
So I'm fine with that, but my ask was something different that was denied, which was to extend and take in Regal Trace, which we just had a gentleman from Progresso say, what's your name, sir? JJ? You didn't want Regal Trace or City View taken from your district, right? From Progresso. You don't want it on the western side of 7th Avenue. You don't want it to be with that group. So does the current residents in Regal Trace participate in your meetings over there? You're the president, right? Yeah. Is Regal Trace involved in that? We really don't have anybody. Hold on, Stephen. I can talk.
But he needs to come to the
Come to
podium.
the mic, please. Stephen's
Because-
absolutely, he's right. Come to the mic.
People at home need to hear who's talking and see who's talking.
Okay. Let me go back because he's absolutely right. Can you state your name for the record, please?
J.J. Hankerson.
And you are the
president of
what?
Progresso Village Civic Association.
President.
Yes.
And you spoke on behalf of the association saying that you do not want, I'm gonna use these neighborhood identifications titles just so people understand what I'm talking about. You don't want Regal Trace nor City View to be excluded from Progresso. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Thank you for that. So what 6B represents today is what we had before we started this process, excluding 34 people, which are in those 3 buildings right by the FP&L plant there. So Regal Trace, City View, and I know the mayor spoke to that. He knew what Carlton wanted back then. It is, I'm saddened that Carlton isn't here to speak his own words because he fought so hard to have City View built back in those days, Miss Hinton. And I knew his wishes, and Miss Small, Satterley, you knew his wishes, Miss Baylor, but he's not here to defend that. But we walk away with the strip mall that we had when we came into this meeting. We lost 34 people as well, not as drastic as your loss of 2,000 people, but the whole purpose was to keep neighborhoods from being divided. Excuse me, but sir, what's your name again? Can you come to the microphone for a second? Just give me a minute, Mayor.
Commissioner, I don't think City View is part of Progresso Village, technically.
Yeah, but you fought to have it. All that was a part of the black historical piece we were talking about. That's
No,
all
I
I'm saying.
know, but you questioned JJ about City
Yeah,
View
but-
and Regal Trace staying
So-
in Progresso, but they're not in Progresso.
So why did we have to keep them in
No,
Progresso?
I'm not going to get into an argument. I'm just telling you
No, but I'm
they're
just-
not in Progresso.
I get that. I know
Okay.
where they are.
And Alan, you need to explain to everyone, my colleagues in particular, what we're here to do tonight. This is the second reading
Yeah,
of
second
something
reading.
we've already passed.
And I can speak.
Exactly, but it's getting twisted now.
It was
It's
twisted
almost as
before.
if we're here to start from the scratch, and we're
No,
not.
No,
This is a second
I didn't
reading.
start this conversation.
Alan, legally, can you tell us what a second reading of an ordinance is?
You get to opine.
Thank you.
Then I'll finish my statement.
Perfect.
Hey there, sir.
In answer to both yours and Commissioner Moritas' question, there's one map that's before you, which is the map that the commission, the majority of the commission voted on at first reading, which now advances to second reading because it's an ordinance. And that is what is before you now. Now, you are allowed to speak, you're allowed to.
Right.
If there's someone that objects.
So I'm allowed to speak?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm allowed to speak.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
You're always allowed to speak.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. You're so kind.
My pleasure.
That's coming from the same commissioner that said that you're going to love me when they took 2,000 people.
Those were actually
Made a drastic change. I'm speaking.
those are actually not my
And made
words.
a drastic
though.
change.
Those are not my words.
It made a drastic change, a far reach to put you somewhere you don't want to be. At least Lauderdale Isles had the balls to come in here and say we don't want to be with poor people. We don't want to be with people that don't have water.
That's offensive language.
No, but that's balls or anything.
Offensive
Basketball,
language.
football,
It's offensive
baseball,
language. It's offensive.
pickleball,
offensive language.
the whole nine.
It's offensive.
They
And I
had to
didn't
go-
say they're going to
they had
love
to
you.
go. I'm talking again.
No, I know, but
They had to
you,
go.
you
Completely
misquoted
offensive.
me.
I strike that
Ridiculous.
from the record.
Don't
Alan.
misquote
Not
me,
accurate
though.
The go.
I didn't say they're going to love you.
to
I
say-
said they're in for a treat.
to say, but listen to what's happening. And I know it's not going to change the outcome, but you wrote me. And I want to respond to you. If I had my way, if I was the deciding vote that would have broken the tie, you'd be where you want to be. And you are in for a treat. You are in for a treat. But there were things promised to you way back then, too, that no one's here to testify for. It's interesting to hear that you were part of the airport talks and walks and all that stuff and screaming we did for months and months and months and months and months and months and months. But here, you didn't seem like you participated that much in this redistricting process.
Correct. I've been, well, if you want the background, we have the time. I've been active with the association and with the annex of our neighborhood into the city since the very beginning. I moved into the neighborhood specifically for that. And back then it was Larry Hayes.
Finish that 1 second.
It was Larry Hayes who was the president, who organized a lot of it, and he was very good friends with Cindy Hutchinson. I don't know if you remember her. I've gone through a lot of commissioners, so I know a lot of background. This is not my first rodeo.
Yeah, and
I've been at this at this
Yeah, and
rodeo
the person
for
that-
20 years.
and the person that spearheaded was actually Norman
Yeah.
Cabot, who was the city
Yeah.
county auditor at the
Do
time.
you remember the county? How the county handled the whole deal?
Yeah.
How they tossed us over to city?
Right.
Yeah.
So
So what ended up happening was I've been at this for a long time. I've gone through a lot of commissioners. I honestly, I rolled off as president because I sat in every possible board position that there is.
you're not the president now.
No, I'm currently the president. I'm
Okay.
just rolling back on mid-March. I'm just rolling back on. So as I'm going through the emails and whatever else, yesterday morning, my secretary explains to me, hey, did you read the email from our commissioner? And I said, what are you talking about? He's like, they're about to push us into District 3. We're supposed to be in 4. It's been like that forever. I said, yeah. So that's where this all started. I've been doing my research. And
Okay.
if there have been meetings for months, why have we not been reached out to? What kind of communication do we have between the city and the association when the association is supposed to be the conduit through which there's communication with the city? And I find the city guilty in that. I'm sorry, but I do. That is a lack.
Okay.
That is shameful.
Do you get the city agenda?
Maps today, but what if it was more severe?
Okay.
You get the city agendas as the president, or does your
I
association?
would hope so. Now I do.
And
Because this is the city manager has just told us that we've had 6 meetings on this topic.
okay, but
Yeah, I wasn't president then.
okay, sir. I called you up for
Yes,
a
sir.
reason. So, Mr. Consultant, when did we start this process?
We've been in this process for many months now. Steve, do you recall?
Okay, tell me when, not how many months.
I will Give me one moment, I'll pull up the timeline for you so that we can review that together. So we started back in March.
In March. And today's date is what?
We're on April 27th. We've been moving very
So how
quickly.
many months have gone by?
We've got 2 months into this process.
2 months.
And
So-
part
so-
of that process also included a public
So
outreach.
I got all that. Hold on a second. So we've been doing this many, many months or about almost 50-something days?
We've moved at the pace that was requested of us by the city.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, for the record, the redistricting was supposed to be completed in 2020. Am I correct?
No.
What date?
The
Stephen, let me ask the consultant. You're not the consultant. You're pretty good, but you're not that good.
I haven't
Go ahead.
said anything.
You're shaking your head. It's very
I can shake,
disruptive.
oh, I'm not allowed to shake my head.
It's like the map. It's disruptive.
I'm not allowed to shake my head.
That's absolutely.
Oh, okay. Well, you can
Go
just
ahead.
tell me when I can shake my head.
Momentarily. Give me a
Because
minute.
this is such theater,
Give me a
Commissioner
minute.
McKenzie.
Theater is what I've been a part
This,
of.
oh, you're good at this. This is
You are
theater.
very good.
You're good at last minute bringing up stuff, changing stuff,
Call
spinning
me
stuff.
last minute McKenzie.
It's
How
all
about that?
theater. It's
Thank you,
all
sir.
theater.
So, when was the date for us to have this done? Since
Initially, that would be down to the city. Of course, Census Day was April 1st of 2020. And then
April 1st of 2020. So we were supposed to have this done.
No, sorry.
When?
If I could just finish my answer.
Oh,
Census Day was April 1st of 2020. Of course, the data wouldn't normally be expected to be released until many months later. Because of the pandemic, it was delayed in its release. So there's no earthly way, even in a normal cycle, where you'd be able to finish the cycle in 2020. The census data usually is released 1 year exactly after Census Day. So normally, you'd expect to see that release on April 1st of 2021.
thank you so much. I appreciate it. The next question is for Alan, legal. What is the legal description of Regal Trace in City View? And thank you for bringing it up, Steve.
What do you mean by legal description?
Excuse me?
What do you mean by legal description?
Like Progresso,
Neighborhood.
West River Bend, what is the legal description of those properties?
There's no legal description.
There's no legal description.
No, they're just part of a neighborhood. That's not
No, I'm
illegal.
asking you another question. Is it a part of Progresso neighborhood?
Part of Progress, I don't know. There's no legal
Someone look this
distinction.
up for me?
Well,
There's
wait,
no
Commissioner, let him answer.
He just answered. He said,
You're not letting him finish his answer.
go ahead, Alan.
Neighborhoods, civic associations, those types of loose associations are not legally drawn. They're just voluntary. They're arbitrary. There's no legal description. They're not defined by law.
Right, I got that. But what I'm trying to figure out, Mayor, and maybe you can help me. You do real estate. What neighborhood is Regal Trace in City View in? Progresso, South Middle River, Las Olas Isles, Doors. I mean, what's that legal name for that neighborhood? Does anyone in this on city staff know that?
Let me answer the question. When a neighborhood association is established, they come to the city and they ask the city to be recognized as a civic association, and there are certain boundaries that are normally associated with that. Let's take another example. Let's take the Central Beach Alliance. When the Central Beach Alliance was first established, the boundaries of the Central Beach Alliance were much different then than they are today. They have since been expanded significantly, and so they themselves determine what the boundaries are.
Right.
In this particular case, if you're talking about Progresso, I don't believe Regal Trace was ever included in any particular neighborhood association. They don't participate in the. Okay, so, but we're not talking about, when we're talking about commission districts, we're not talking, what we're hoping to do is not split neighborhood associations. So if Regal Trace is included in District 2, it's not like we're splitting Regal Trace in between one district and another. They just exist as a housing development.
Right, I get that, but what I'm trying
Okay.
to say is, maybe Steve can help me. Is it a part of Progresso's association?
According to the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Association's map, Regal Trace is in Progresso Village. City View has its own, according to the council's map, their own association. City View I think City View Townhome Association or something that's called like that. But they each have but Regal Trace in the city's map of neighborhood associations is within Progresso Village.
Okay, so Regal Trace is in Progresso Village.
Yes.
So you didn't want to separate that, is what JJ was saying earlier, nor the district commissioner.
I think what
But
Mr.
about-
Gamma Clark wanted to tell us,
But what I'm
I think
talking
what he
about-
said, let me finish, is that he wanted to keep the status quo as much as possible and not disrupt the current boundaries as we know them today. And so the option 6B was their attempt to try to keep things as intact as possible, and Regal Trace remains where it has been, as most of the city districts, except my neighborhood is being now associated with District 1, and the Riverland neighborhood is now being associated with District 3. Okay.
So what I don't get is, when I was speaking at all of our meetings, I wasn't speaking from a civic association perspective. I was speaking on a legal description of neighborhoods, whereas that portion, that property up to the railroad tracks between 6.
This is what was sent to me.
Right.
That has the map.
I get that part, but that's associations.
Yeah, so the
So
map
I'm talking about-
shows that Regal Trace would be considered part of Progresso Village.
I got that.
Okay, and
Yep.
as Commissioner Glassman said,
I got it.
City View carved out its own association.
And I agree with all that.
Okay,
That's
so
not
what do we get? Where are we going?
Okay, hold on. You are an attorney, a real estate attorney, right? There's a legal description on land, every transaction, right? And it tells you what neighborhood you're a part of. Progresso.
No, it doesn't.
No,
No, it does.
that's no. I want to correct you.
You're wrong.
No.
Does the
Pull
legal
up-
description?
Pull up my address right quick. I'm gonna just say. hold on.
But Commissioner, let me explain. As a real estate attorney,
Now you can give a personal.
the legal description talks about the plat,
Right.
Okay, the plat.
not the neighborhood association.
What about the plat?
There's
Can someone give me the plat then? How about that?
the
That's
plats.
That's
The
a good
plats
example.
the plats are often confused because there's some older neighborhoods where the plat.
Just give me a plat. All I want is to know
We'll refer-
what is the name of the plat?
The name of the plat in my neighborhood, in my
No.
legal description of my house, is Lakeland.
But it
Regal
doesn't.
Trace.
It doesn't say Poinsettia Heights.
Talking about Regal Trace.
It's Lakeland
What-
subdivision.
What is
Mayor, what's the
plat
point
in
of
legal
all
trace?
this?
Because I'm a commissioner, I can ask questions.
I know.
The attorney said I can speak to the issue. That's what he said. When you ask for the legal opinion, I'm asking for the plat name since I got it wrong, which is part of a legal description anyway. In a closing, I do it too, but I'm just not a real estate attorney. However, what is the legal description for that area? That's all I'm asking.
But the plat, the names on the plats do not define the neighborhood.
I'm not trying to.
There's some plats
Not trying to
that
define a neighborhood.
there's some plats that have references to traditional names, possibly.
I'm not trying to define.
And redistricting doesn't deal with plats.
I get that.
What's the point?
I want to know what is the plat name for that neighborhood. That's
Why?
all for the record.
Why do you want to know that?
Because this is my question.
Why?
Because
We
when
don't know the answer. We don't know the answer right now.
well, historically,
We can research
well,
it.
we talk about not dividing neighborhoods, but when we did not put this back in the district, you divided us spiritually, mentally, historically, and it goes back to 35 years ago when we sacrificed that piece of land for the beginning of redevelopment for the city. It was supposed to be a part of our economic engine or promise, if you will, and we have yet to experience that because the seats change and the vote will never change. And the more that we grow on this side of town, you will always see this type of land grab, if you will, for the progression. The most money, the most development that was promised to District 3 now resides in another district.
Okay.
So that's all I spoke to in the beginning. I'm fine with, I'm not gonna say I'm fine, but I gotta live with whatever's dealt
Okay.
to me. And I didn't break the tie, and I wasn't on the majority side, and my vote's gonna be the same thing. It's a second reading, like I told you, it never really turns out any other way. So I wanted to answer your letter. and give you the history of what I fought for, and I will be on the losing side tonight.
Okay.
Commissioner, if I might, I just want to say that everything you've said today and also at the last meeting on this, in my opinion, I wish you had brought up when we first started this process 2 months ago. What I'm having difficulty with is the points that you're making tonight. And by the way, I'm not agreeing with your perspective, and I'm not agreeing with the points you're making. But they should have been made 2 months ago.
I did make them.
No, you did not.
I did too.
No, you didn't. You did not make these.
I did too.
No,
But
you
see,
did not.
the mayor's gonna allow you to do what he
Wait,
wants to
wait.
because you're his wingman.
I think
But
this has been, I think this has
I
been.
know what I said. Go back and pull the record.
Okay, I think this has been discussed.
You
ad
can't
nauseam.
handle the truth, Stephen.
No.
You can't handle it. You stole property that belonged to black people. You are a racist.
Oh my God!
Whoa.
You know, now
right.
I'm glad you said that tonight because that really shows how
That has nothing to do with the subject matter.
really shows how absurd you are, how insulting you are, and I'm so thrilled you're leaving this commission because that kind of language,
Good. Thank
that
you.
kind of rhetoric,
Thank you.
and I
Thank you.
apologize to every
Thank you.
one of you who had to listen to those words.
I had to listen to people say
Anyone who knows me,
What's the difference?
anyone who knows me and what my life has been about knows that those words are disgusting.
Racist.
Shame on you. Shame on you. You know what?
Defamatory.
You are the racist.
Yeah.
Shame on you. Shame on you.
Racist.
Shame on you for bringing shame on this commission. Shame on
All right,
you.
all right. enough.
Shame on you.
Let him go, Mayor.
Mayor,
Let him go, Mayor.
I move the ordinance on second reading. This is disgusting.
Okay, the ordinance has been
Disgusting.
introduced on second reading.
Disgusting.
Please call the roll.
An ordinance of the city of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, establishing geographical boundaries of the
Racist.
4 city commission districts so that such districts
Play the
shall be
race
as-
card. Play the race card. Jesus Christ.
Quiet.
Unbelievable.
Such districts shall be as approximately equal in population as is practicable pursuant to section 7.12 of the city charter, providing for severability and an effective date. Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
No.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and the ordinance is approved on second reading. Is there any further business of the commission, Mr. City Manager?
I have no further business.
Nothing? Okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.